This is a quick video lecture of Chapter 7. I wanted to guide you to just a few things as you get through your reading and your participation points, but honestly, most of your participation work and your homework will help you understand a lot of the content in this chapter. But I wanted you all to take a moment as you go through the chapter to watch this video called It's Not About the Nail. I want you to really think about what this video means. Think about some of the gender stereotypes that are evident. They're definitely there. But what this video really is trying to get at as well is that we really struggle to listen to one another. Sometimes we can come off as a listener who wants to fix things, and sometimes we come off as a listener who doesn't know what to do. Do we give advice? Do I share my own experience? Do I simply stay quiet? So it's not about the nail. While funny, it's also pretty important because it's kind of the truth. It shows that listening is one of the hardest things for us to do. So please watch that video. It's very quick, it's funny, and it's also got some truth that human beings have a hard time listening. So there's really only a few quick things I want to highlight in your chapter. Many of the assignments you have this week are things that I normally do in class together that helps my students better understand the material. But I do share a few stories that I wanted to share with you. So I'm going to jump through. First of all, you can see there's a clear difference between hearing and listening. I hear a lot of things. In fact, I have a fountain in my office and I can hear it right now. But I'm not listening to it. It's background noise. It really helps me concentrate. It keeps me focused, but I'm not listening to every single drop the fountain makes. If I did that, I would go absolutely crazy. So there is a difference between hearing and listening. And as part of your participation work this week, you'll see that you're going to break down step by step what the stages of listening actually are. Okay, then we have mindless listening and mindful listening. Mindless listening is something you're going to be looking at on a deeper level when you complete your homework this week. And that's looking at how we react to things sort of automatically or routinely. And it can also include this idea that we think we're listening when we're really not. We think we're excellent multitaskers, but we actually have a pretty hard time. Listening takes a lot of effort, and it's not something that should just be passive like we think it should be sometimes. I'm guilty of this myself. I used to think, okay, I'm looking at you, I'm making eye contact, therefore I am listening. But it completely ignores some of the things that we've seen in our communication model. I have a lot of internal noise going on. I might be thinking about my grocery list, if I have food for my cat, what I'm going to be doing after work. Lots of things could be going through my head, which could make me, unfortunately, a mindless listener. Okay, there's different challenges of listening. Please review these, especially after you go over the It's Not the Nail video. This is one I really want to highlight, so I'm going to move me a little bit here. And you can see this chart. And what we've got in this chart, it's from your textbook, and there's a couple things I want to highlight. First of all, we have a pretty bad lack of training when it comes to listening. Think about some of the classes that are offered at Green River. We know that there's things like public speaking, small group communication, intercultural, persuasion, interpersonal. But there's not a Comm Studies 211, the art of listening. We just don't really learn it very well. And this chart here shows this. So you can see here we've got learned, used, and taught. Now, the thing I really like to highlight is the fact that listening is learned first, it is used the most, and it is taught the least. I am experiencing this firsthand with my nephew Liam. He's almost 3 years old, and while he's now getting into Speaking, which is learned second, used next to most, and also taught next to least, what he's been doing is listening before he was even able to get to the speaking stage. So my brother, who is his father, and my sister-in-law, Liam's mother, they would tell him things, and they still do. They say, this is right, this is wrong, don't do this, don't do that. And he can process that, and he can interpret what that means. But his responses aren't always so great. So sometimes he talks, and I call it his Liam gibberish. I know what he's trying to say, but he just can't quite get there. So where am I going with this? It's mind-blowing to me. Liam is almost 3 years old. He's already using some of these skills, and he's going to be taught how to use them the least. Because we often just assume, if I'm looking at you, I am listening. But we know that's not true because we now know there's a difference between hearing something and actually listening to something. There's a big difference. So keep that in mind as we continue on. Just a few more things to highlight here for you. These are the elements of the listening process, which you'll do your participation work off of. We'll keep going through this. One of the examples I use is from understanding. So I am in physics class in high school, okay? And I hear what my instructor is saying. I am attending to the message, and I'm literally attending the classes. I am going to all of them. I am listening. I am going to the tutoring sessions. I am listening. I am staying after class. I am listening. But I'm not all the way, because what's happening is I'm attending. Okay, I'm there, but it's not connecting for me. I can't make sense of this message. Now, we know in the elements of the listening process, this goes as far as remembering. So I can hear the message, I can attend the message, and I can remember the message, but it doesn't mean I understand it. So I could hear, attend, and remember some of the formulas that my physics teacher is teaching us, but when it comes down to actually doing the equations on a quiz, I didn't know why or when to use which equations, and I struggled on those tests. Think about if you're trying to learn another language. Sometimes you can remember certain phrases, but you're not quite sure why the phrases are structured the way that they are. So that's a really, really important example to me. It was something I had a hard time with because when I was in high school, I really felt like I'm doing all the things I need to be doing. What's going on here? And it was just a hard subject for me. And it was the understanding aspect of it. Okay, think about this too. How does nonverbal communication directly link to responding? And what specific nonverbal behaviors can help us with responding? This is one of our other elements of the listening process. I want you, now that you've read chapter 6, to think on your own about how helpful that nonverbal communication can be when we are trying to give validation to our partner and show them that we are truly listening. Think about nonverbal cues, body posture, facial expressions, even your tone of voice. It all is connected to listening. All right, I want to highlight one more thing for you, so I'm going to jump through some of these slides again. And these are the different types of listening responses. And I want you to go through these and make sure you understand them, because on your homework assignment, you'll be asked to figure out which type of response you think best fits who you're going to write about for your relationship paper. So you'll see different kinds here with different guidelines. Now, one thing I really want to highlight is giving advice. And this is the last part of the video lecture today. I want you to think about when you are in a conversation with someone, do you automatically start giving input? is that actually an appropriate response to the situation? Sometimes people just want to be heard, and all they really require of you is prompting and sincere questioning. Sometimes giving advice can hurt you in the end. It can hurt your relationship. So what I like to do and suggest to my students is this. When you are listening and someone goes into a story and says, I need to talk to you about something, maybe it's their day, maybe something bad happened, I always say, do you want me to just listen, or do you want me to give some input on this? Do you want my advice? And you will be amazed at how much better the conversations can go. Because sometimes if you just start giving advice or you relate it to your own situation, think back to some of those ineffective listening habits, you can look like a stage hogger, and you don't want to do that. I hope this was helpful today in going over some additional things that I share in class lectures. Like I said, a lot of the work you're doing this week is actual work I do directly with my students in the classroom. So I hope it helps you understand the material better, and good luck with everything. We can all be better listeners.